Hello and welcome to the football world. You're watching the Football Current, powered by pure football energy. For years, supporters of Tottenham Hotspur dreamed about moments like that. The final whistle blowing, players collapsing to the grass, fans roaring in disbelief as silverware was finally lifted into the night sky. After years of near misses, heartbreaks, and the painful label of almost, Tottenham had finally won a European trophy. It was supposed to mark the beginning of something new, turning point, proof that the club had finally crossed the invisible line that separates hopeful contenders from genuine winners. For a brief moment, it felt like the wait had been worth it. But football has a cruel way of exposing illusions, because just 1 year later, the same club that celebrated European glory now finds itself staring into something far darker, something far more uncomfortable. Crisis. A team that once dreamed about titles is now nervously glancing over its shoulder at the relegation zone. A squad built with promise now looks confused, fragile, and completely disconnected. And a fan base that once believed the future had finally arrived is now asking a terrifying question. How did it all fall apart so quickly? Because right now, something is undeniably wrong at Tottenham. Not slightly wrong, not temporarily wrong, broken. To understand how things reached this point, you have to rewind to the years when Tottenham were actually one of the most exciting teams in Europe. Under the guidance of Mauricio Pochettino, Spurs built something special. Not just a team that won games, but a team that represented an identity. Aggressive pressing, quick transitions, fearless football played with intensity and belief. Players like Harry Kane, Son Heung-min, Christian Eriksen, and Dele Alli became the symbols of a generation that dared to challenge the traditional hierarchy of English football. They didn't always win trophies. In fact, that became the criticism that followed them everywhere. But week after week, season after season,
Tottenham competed.
They reached a Champions League final. They pushed title races deep into the season. They played football that fans genuinely looked forward to watching. Back then, Spurs matches weren't obligations. They were events. For supporters, the weekend meant something exciting was coming. The stadium buzzed with anticipation. Even when results didn't go their way, the team still fought with personality and courage. But slowly, gradually, that identity began to fade. Managers changed, philosophies shifted, and somewhere along the way, Tottenham lost the one thing that had once defined them: clarity. Now, fast forward to the present, and the contrast is almost shocking. Instead of excitement, there's anxiety. Instead of belief, there's frustration. Instead of progress, there's confusion. Because watching Tottenham today feels completely different. The football looks flat. The players look nervous. And perhaps most worrying of all, the team often looks like 11 individuals rather than a unified system. Losses are no longer shocking. They're expected. When Tottenham were defeated by rivals like Arsenal in the North London Derby, supporters could at least understand the context. Arsenal are currently one of the most developed teams in England. Their project under Mikel Arteta has been building for years. Losing to them hurts, but it's explainable. What supporters couldn't accept were the results that followed. Rolling over against teams like Fulham and Crystal Palace told a far more worrying story, because those weren't just defeats. They were collapses. One match in particular captured the entire mood surrounding Tottenham right now. A crucial home game against Crystal Palace. A match that, given the circumstances, simply had to be won. Heading into the fixture, the league table painted a frightening picture. Results elsewhere had tightened the bottom half dramatically. West Ham United had picked up points. Nottingham Forest had earned an impressive draw against Manchester City. And suddenly, Tottenham were sitting dangerously close to the relegation zone. The pressure inside the stadium was enormous. This was supposed to be the moment the team responded. Instead, it became another symbol of the collapse. Early in the match, Spurs were fortunate not to fall behind after a Palace goal was ruled out for offside. That decision felt like a lifeline, a second chance to regain control of the night. For a brief moment, it even looked like Tottenham might take it. When Dominic Solanke scored to give Spurs the lead, the stadium erupted with relief. Fans celebrated not just the goal, but the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the team had finally found some fight. But the optimism lasted only minutes, because what happened next perfectly summed up Tottenham's season. In the space of just 7 minutes, the entire match collapsed. 3 goals conceded, defensive confusion, midfield panic, and a sense that the players themselves didn't fully understand what was happening around them. The reaction inside the stadium said everything. Some supporters began leaving before halftime. Others stayed. But their expressions told the same story. Disbelief, anger, exhaustion. It wasn't just a defeat. It was the feeling that something fundamental had gone wrong inside the club. And statistics only made the picture look even worse. At one stage, Tottenham had gone months without a league victory. They had lost 5 consecutive top-flight matches for the first time in nearly 2 decades. The team had conceded multiple goals in game after game, turning every defensive phase into a potential disaster. Even their home form, traditionally a source of strength, had completely collapsed. Points at home were painfully rare. For a club of Tottenham's stature, those numbers were almost impossible to believe. That's where the arrival of Igor Tudor was supposed to change everything. Tudor wasn't hired to build a long-term dynasty. He was brought in as an emergency solution, a manager known for restoring discipline to struggling squads. His reputation suggested he could stabilize chaos. But instead, the early signs have only deepened the uncertainty. Tudor arrived with a clear tactical identity, a commitment to a back-three system that prioritizes structure and compactness. In theory, that should have helped a defense that had completely lost its shape. In practice, it created new complications. Several key decisions immediately raised eyebrows. In the crucial match against Crystal Palace, Tudor made the bold choice to leave 2 expensive signings, Xavi Simons and Conor Gallagher, out of the starting lineup. Even more surprising was the decision to bench striker Richarlison, one of the team's most recognizable attacking figures. Those choices sent a clear message. Either the manager didn't trust those players to deliver in a crisis, or the squad itself had deeper problems than anyone realized. Then came the moment that truly changed the match. With Tottenham already under pressure, Captain Mickey van de Ven pulled down an opposing attacker inside the penalty area. Penalty. Red card. Suddenly, the fragile structure Tottenham were trying to maintain completely shattered. Van de Ven had been a hero during the club's European triumph just a year earlier, even producing a famous goal-line clearance in the final. But football can be brutally unforgiving. One season you're a hero, the next you're the symbol of a team losing control. After the red card, Tudor attempted to reorganize the team with substitutions. More defenders, more midfielders, a desperate attempt to restore balance. But even with 5 defenders on the pitch, Tottenham conceded again. And again, it was chaos disguised as strategy. Yet beneath the tactical confusion lies something deeper, something harder to fix. Confidence. Right now, Tottenham look like a team completely drained of it. When players lose belief, everything becomes harder. Passes feel heavier. Decisions become slower. Small mistakes start multiplying into bigger ones. The body language tells the story before the scoreline does. Players hesitate. Runs stop halfway. Challenges arrive a fraction too late. It's not that they don't care. It's that doubt has taken over. And when doubt spreads across an entire squad, it becomes incredibly difficult to reverse. There are a few exceptions. Young talents like Archie Gray and Mathys Tel have at least shown flashes of energy and hunger. Gray in particular has impressed observers with his willingness to run, press, and attack the penalty area. But relying on teenagers to carry a struggling team is rarely sustainable, especially in a league as unforgiving as the Premier League. Because make no mistake, the Premier League punishes weakness. If your midfield lacks structure, you get exposed. If your defense lacks communication, you concede. If your confidence collapses, opponents smell it instantly. And that's exactly what seems to be happening to Tottenham right now. But the problems don't stop on the pitch. In fact, many supporters believe the real issues sit far higher inside the club. Recruitment decisions, transfer strategies, long-term planning. For years, Tottenham have operated with a philosophy focused on buying young players with potential rather than established stars with proven impact. It's a model designed for sustainability. But in football, sustainability doesn't always guarantee success, especially when the rest of the league is spending aggressively to strengthen their squads. Rivals invest in experienced players who can deliver immediately. Tottenham often invest in players who might become great in the future. Sometimes that strategy works beautifully. Other times, it leaves a team without the immediate quality needed to survive a difficult season. The January transfer window was a perfect example. The squad clearly needed reinforcements in midfield and wide positions. fresh energy, defensive stability, players capable of calming the chaos. But the club chose patience instead. Leadership believed relegation was simply too unrealistic to worry about. That assumption now looks dangerously naive. Because if Tottenham's current form continues, the unthinkable could become reality. Relegation. For a club that regularly competes in European competitions, dropping out of the Premier League would be a historic collapse. The last time Tottenham were relegated was back in 1977, nearly half a century ago. Financially, the consequences would be enormous. Sponsorship deals, broadcasting revenue, and player contracts would all face immediate uncertainty. But perhaps the biggest damage would be psychological, because once a club falls from the top tier, rebuilding can take years, sometimes even decades. And right now, Tottenham supporters are left watching a team that seems frighteningly close to that edge. A team that struggles to score, a defense that constantly looks vulnerable, a midfield that often disappears entirely. When you compare them to clubs like West Ham, Nottingham Forest, or even Wolverhampton Wanderers, the uncomfortable truth begins to emerge. At this moment in time, Tottenham might genuinely be one of the weakest teams in the league, which leads to the most painful realization of all. This crisis isn't caused by just one person, not just the manager, not just the players, not just the board. It's the result of years of small decisions, small compromises, and small mistakes slowly building into something much bigger. A club that once chased greatness now finds itself searching for stability. A fan base that once dreamed of titles now hopes simply to survive the season. And perhaps that's the real tragedy of this story. Because Tottenham are not a small club. They have the stadium. They have the global fan base. They have the history. What they don't have right now is direction. And in modern football, direction is everything. So as this difficult season continues, one question will hang over every match, every decision, and every performance. Not just whether Tottenham can survive, but whether the club can rediscover what it once believed it could become. Because if this crisis proves anything, it's that success in football is never permanent. And once momentum disappears, rebuilding it might be the hardest challenge of all. So here's the real question. Is this just a temporary collapse for Tottenham? Or the beginning of something far worse?